Okay, so I got Kavo in the house, and I'm sure everyone knows Kavo already. Professional photographer. He just won #1 street photographer in the country as well. How does it feel to have won #1 street photographer in the country?
Feels weird because I feel weird about competitions, but yeah, it also feels good as well. You work really hard at, well, I work really hard at trying to create something unique, and these are like really personal images of mine. So it wasn't created for anything specific, but it tells the story of my experience in different parts of the world. So yeah, it feels good to actually receive an award for that.
So like I've been doing content creation for just over a year now, and I think in photography it's been about 6 months or 7 months that I tried my hand at photography. So what I found is that there's a lot of photographers because the barriers to entry have reduced so much.
You mean people with cameras?
People with cameras, yeah. And the thing is, I've noticed also everyone with a smartphone, like Huawei iPhone users, they all think that their cameras, well, on their smartphone are better than the cameras that you have, or just as good as the cameras that you have.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. That looks amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are we having anything to eat?
We're good for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So they think that the cameras on their phones are better than smartphones, which the computational photography is pretty good, no doubt. And then, I mean, the price of mirrorless and DSLR are so low, and you can even pick up pretty good lenses for a good price. So barriers to entry are low. And what I realized, okay, I had you as a mentor, so that was a big advantage for me. But I was only in it for like 4 months and I already had people asking me for rates. So I feel like photography is almost saturated because anyone either can do it or anyone thinks that they can do it. So firstly, which one is it? Is it anyone can do it or anyone thinks they can do it?
I think there's two ways of looking at this. It is saturated, but you can differentiate yourself in the market. So it's saturated, yes, because the barrier to entry, it is a lot cheaper to actually get into the industry. I mean, anyone can just buy like an entry-level camera, a kit lens, start shooting, put their name on it, and book like a few events. And people that are hiring them don't necessarily know much about photography, but they just want an image. And it's so easy to actually create an image with the current technology that they can make some money off it. But are they photographers? I wouldn't say so. There's a lot of guys with cameras that can create images because it's easier now, but to develop a style and to create that long-term I don't know, growth in the industry, then it takes a lot of expertise and a lot of time. And how do you stand out? Because we're looking at thousands and thousands of images like every single day, and you got to have a unique style to actually keep yourself in the industry, or I don't know.
But like, it's so saturated, right? So what's setting the guy? I get what you're saying, that you need some style to set you apart. But I've noticed a lot of guys have similar styles, similar prices, and like I would never want to be in that bracket. Like,
see what happens.
But no disrespect for any of those guys who are in that. Maybe they don't realize.
I think what most of the guys do is look at a decent image, decently exposed image, and say, I can do that. Figure out how to actually do it, and then produce that image, and then they'll look at another image which is completely different, copy that. So they keep on following trends. So what happens is, like over time, is if you look at their portfolio, it just doesn't make sense. Like, what do you stand for? You're just creating like random stuff. I look at it differently, where I'm trying to create a style and people must book me for that style, so only I can do it. So then price doesn't matter. So people will pay like a lot of money for your type of work. Like if you do it that way versus just like copying people or following trends. because then you'll always be competing for price, and then the market is saturated. But if you differentiate yourself from everyone else, then there's a specific clientele and the market is not saturated. So do you understand?
So you want to get in a niche. Or not you, but I'm saying, okay, what would your advice be for all the startup guys who are trying to get their foot in the door and they're trying to do volume initially and advertise like, say, portrait shoots at a low price because they want to build their portfolio plus get exposure plus experience? It's easy to get caught in that rut as well, where you just, like, I'll say, okay, I'll do your shoot for X amount, it's a low price, and then keep doing similar shoots of that nature. How do I get out and grow after that?
I can only tell you from my experience. When I started off, I shot everything, but I knew I had an affinity for like photographing people. So like after a year of shooting like multiple things, I never charged a cent in the first year. The second year, I might have taken on an event, but it was very few. Like I realized that I can't really charge someone for an event if I'm not good at it. So I shot multiple events for free, shot with other photographers to learn quicker. So I would say like get a mentor, maybe shoot it in for like 2 or 3 years and figure out whether you actually enjoy that aspect of photography, because the worst thing is to get paid for something but you don't like that type of photography, because whatever you advertise, that's what you're going to book. So I would say get a mentor, do a lot of like free shoots, because when you rock up on the day and people expect results, you got to produce something like amazing. You cannot say that, okay, now I'm just checking my settings on the camera, and you just got to produce results.
And do you think it's more advisable to do a free shoot versus a shoot at a fraction of the price? Because
I'm probably going to get shot for this, but there's like 2 ways of looking at it. You can charge a low rate and then eventually increase your prices over time, which I did initially, but I guess like I didn't have like any business sense of like how to go about this whole photography thing. I tried it out. I thought it was like a lot of money at that time because I had a job, so I didn't rely on like photography to actually live. So I could charge like a lower rates and be okay with it, but that's not a good idea, I think.
Or on the converse, because you didn't need it as income, you could have charged a high rate, and if you didn't get a client, it would have been fine as well.
You could have looked at it that way, but I always looked at it as I don't have an expertise in a particular type of photography, so I'm still learning. So how can I charge like a higher rate? So like my thing is you got to get like really good before like increasing your pricing or charging like a good rate for photography.
Beginning of this, I mentioned the guys who are shooting on their phones and they think like they're as good as you are. How far are phones away from full-on DSLRs and mirrorless cameras now?
So they're different. So like the computational, I mean like the technology in phones are like amazing. It's absolutely amazing because it's producing an image that we're trying to create with editing. So it's automatically editing the image while you're actually creating it, which is absolutely crazy. And you're getting like a decent image to like a really good image, like very quickly, sharing it on social media like really quickly. So I guess it has its place, but it's a different thing when you're trying to create like a professional image for like a fashion magazine, like a wedding and stuff.
Do you think that there'll ever be a time where cameras are almost obsolete and cell phones have taken over?
I don't know. That's actually a good question. Because a lot of quite a few of the camera manufacturers are producing cameras that eliminate some of the features of modern technology. Like Leica, for example, produces like a black and white image creation camera only. So
it only shoots black and white.
Only shoots black and white, and they're charging like $8,000 to $9,000 for it. Fujifilm, all style cameras, and it's all it has all the dials in it, so it's giving you like the feel of actually creating an image versus just pressing a button on your phone. So it's often it's more fun to actually shoot using those cameras than using your phone. I don't know, I find it better to actually use those cameras as opposed to using a phone. Although it's easier to use your phone to create an image.
Yeah, definitely. Because the phone does half the work, half the battle's won.
I think it's doing like all the work. Or like most of the work.
Most of the
It's
work,
just like, I mean, all you have to do is handle decent composition, and you can get like a really good image. So it's taking away the skill that you have to develop, I think, with other cameras, and it's also taking some of the fun, I think.
Yeah, I also think it takes away some of the fun. But I do realize that it takes quite a bit more skill to go and shoot in manual on a mirrorless or a DSLR, as opposed to just using my phone, which is pretty decent at taking photos. But the fun obviously isn't there as much on a cell phone as opposed to a mirrorless. But do you think there's going to be a future where like a wedding photographer rocks up at a gig with a cell phone?
I think it's going to happen sooner than we think.
Really?
So the only thing with the cell phone technology is the printing aspect. So currently, I don't know whether you can actually print high quality with a cell phone. To be honest, I haven't really tried printing bigger than, I think it's, whatever is like smaller than A4. I haven't tried printing like bigger than that, so I don't know whether it'll actually hold up to actually printing. So the big thing is it looks great on social media, but does it hold up to printing is a big thing. But if it does, who knows, your backup camera could be a cell phone.
Cell phone, yeah.
Yeah.
And likewise for video, I noticed like the cell phone video is excellent nowadays. You almost can't tell the difference. So I think it is going to be a game changer sooner than we think.
I think it's already a game changer because especially like with vlogging, guys on YouTube are using cell phones. We're currently using a cell phone to record this. So the technology is there and it's useful, it's helpful. It makes it easy to actually create content, which is good. But the joy of creating, I hope that never dies. And I would still, even though like with the commercial work I do use like the highest tech cameras. But for personal work, I still like to work that much harder to actually create that image and go to the whole process. And I still find it like really fun to do it that way. And I hope that never dies off.
Although it's so time consuming.
With the personal work is a little bit different because you're not producing like a lot of images, like a lot of work. You're producing specific images that you absolutely love, and you're not producing it with a specific purpose. It's just it just happens. So it's very, you're almost like in a flow state, and it's really personal to you. So you're producing a small quantity, which makes it easier to like edit and stuff, but it feels different. Yeah.
So, okay, so to conclude this, right?
Yeah.
We're saying that photography is only saturated if you're going with trends and you are, what else?
I think it's only saturated if you're following trends. If you pick up the camera and think you're amazing at it and don't learn new techniques or don't progress or don't streamline your photography to a specific style, I think you gotta pick something and get really good at it. Otherwise, you'll always be competing for price. Yeah, I think that's about it. Because I can only talk from my experience. And,
Yeah, for sure.
I differentiated myself by choosing documentary style photography and just doing that and only advertising that. So that's worked for me. Other guys, they possibly could do like multiple
I think
types
other guys
of
are also
photography
trying to find their
yeah.
space, and I think that's also a bit of a difficulty.
Yeah.
Like I myself also trying to find my niche, where I belong in this content creation world.
Yeah.
So it is sort of like a struggle for most people, and I guess then that's why it could become a saturated environment.
And also as an artist, if you like, I don't know, if I believe like if you're a true artist, you're creating something, but you don't know whether it's going to be commercially successful or not. So you're not creating something that you know is going to be commercially successful. It's creating something, putting it out in the world, but you're not sure whether it's going to work or not. So you're living on the edge. So that's real artistry, and I like to live in that spectrum as opposed to creating something that I know looks amazing and know it's going to do well on social media. So like I love to live on the edge and just try to create something unique. Yeah.
Okay, I think let's end the session here. I think that's a lot of information to
That's
digest.
a lot.
Yeah. And we'll say goodbye until next time.
Cheers.